We have a ton of stuff to talk about today on NetApp On Air, going over everything that was in the launch payload for today. So there's going to be blogs, there's going to be videos, there's going to be podcast episodes in the today and in the coming weeks, sort of everything that's going to be coming out there. So hopefully this picture looks much better than what we just had on. It does seem to be much better. So stick with us for the next little bit. We've got some guests here in the studio that we're going to be bringing in, some special guests to go over each of the pieces of the announcement and all of that kind of good stuff. If you want to hang out and chat about this even more, we do have the live chat going on YouTube, but you can always come over to a Discord. We have an official NetApp Discord community. Just go to netappdiscord.com and you can find your way to get into that. We've got thousands of people in there, hundreds of members of staff, engineers, support, and yes, even an executive or two hang out in the Discord with us. And speaking of which, I have a co-host today, the one and only Mr. Jeff Baxter. Jeff, how are you doing today, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
So apologies for kind of dropping the ball on that one. It's little snafus. Technicalities happen every now and then. But
live happens. I think, like you said, the important thing is it's a great announcement video.
Yeah.
It's going to be out there on netapp.com, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Please go rewatch it to get all the goodies you missed the first time.
Yes.
But at least you heard the announcement because the audio went through clear. So
It did. And there were lots of little details of things in there that you and John Shirley and Sandeep went over as far as all of that stuff. We're going to be breaking some of those down today and even more detailed episodes in the coming weeks.
Yep.
So lots of good stuff. I wanted to start with you, seeing as you were in the video. What are some of the things that are really top of mind for you that led to kind of the overarching payload of this launch? Like, what were the big things that we were driving towards with this?
Yeah, so I think, the overall launch was all about unified data storage built for the AI era. And that really was the theme for the entire launch. And there were really three segments of that. One was obviously a big new unified data storage announcement, the brand new AFF A-series. I don't know if we can go to a wide shot or not, but, we got to show off the beautiful bezel.
We have to show the bezel.
Can we get a wide?
Yeah, ooh. And the lights are on.
It lights up. There we go.
Yes,
so,
nice.
So the AFF A-series, massive refresh. So the new AFF A1K, our new flagship system, the AFF A90 and the AFF A70, right? Just amazing new unified data storage. So we can get into that in detail. Then we made a bunch of different announcements about security, why NetApp continues to be the most secure storage on the planet. And I know we've got some special guests coming in to talk about our Cyber Vault solution there, so I'm looking forward to that. And the last piece was a number of different announcements around AI, right? So different partnerships, amazing new partnership with Lenovo in addition to the partnership with NVIDIA. So I'm looking forward to taking the next time to break all of it down for you and, answer any questions we get on the chat and we can go through it.
Absolutely. And guys, there's even some stuff we're not going to get to today, but just make sure you're subscribed here to the channel for future episodes of NetApp On Air, because there's stuff we've got to talk about around Storage Grid, around SnapMirror Sync, Active Sync, all of that stuff we're going to be covering here on the channel in the coming days and weeks. So make sure you stay tuned. I think it's about time that we bring our first guest on.
Sure.
Arguably one of the biggest things that we wanted to talk about today was the AFF systems.
Yes.
So I can't think of when I talk about FAS or AFF systems, there's really only one person that I can think of in this entire company that I absolutely have to pick up the phone and call.
Me?
Well, I don't want to disappoint you, but no, it's not you. Like, you used to be one of those, but then
Then I went out corporate.
Yeah, you got into management and stuff
I
like
wear
that.
suit jackets to a podcast, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So I want to talk to the people that do the real job, the guys that are down, got their hands, wrist deep in silicon and are playing around with processors and hard drives.
I hope he's not too wrist deep in the silicon. That would be a QA problem. I gotta say, it's probably not part of the manufacturing process.
Right. Well, let's bring him onto the show. Let's introduce him. He is, I want to give this guy a little bit of an introduction. This guy has been the principal tech marketing engineer for engineered systems here at NetApp since 2005. Almost 20 years. This guy's been working on our hardware platform. So without further ado, Mr. Chris Lueth, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. And wow, no pressure, huh?
No pressure at all.
No pressure whatsoever. Just so you know, someone in the chat while he was doing that whole spiel said Scott Bell. So I don't
fired.
know about
Shots
that.
Fired.
That's
No one has seen Scott Bell and I in the same room.
That's true.
Right.
You might be
That's
the
a
same
good
person.
point. That's a good point.
Or maybe Scott Bell is Gen AI. We really don't know.
That's a good one.
Hold on. He appears to actually be here.
So, Chris, I just asked Jeff the same question. What can you tell us that makes these systems special? Like, before we get into any of the gooey, geeky details about what makes these systems, like, what is it to you that drove the innovation around this new A-series family of AFF systems? What were the big bullet points that you guys wanted to tackle?
Yeah, well, we didn't go off by ourselves and work on designing the new platform. What we did, we've always talked to customers. Where do you see your business needs going in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years? What do you need from NetApp to deliver that?
Yeah.
It's usually some sort of connectivity speed, 100 gig Ethernet, 32 gig fiber channel, larger SSDs. And we go back and we start designing systems. This time we took a slightly different approach and we went to talk to customers. It's hard to quantify faster speeds, more storage capacity. So what we did, we gave customers some examples. The A700 system, we also gave them the A400 and 800. And we simply asked them to, tell us what you like, and more importantly, tell us what you didn't like.
Yeah.
And that's what in turn led us to go to the whiteboard and start designing out the next generation platform system. So the system really more heavily relied on customer interaction. They really helped us design it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what sets this platform apart.
Okay, cool. So let's get geeky now. What does make this system? We certainly heard Sandeep going over some of the high level details, but I want to get into some of the. I mean, I wore my geek shirt today because I knew Chris Lueth was coming to the show, so I actually want to hear about what is in this system that I care about.
Well, you start out with the basics. I mean, externally, the appearance is just stunning.
Yeah.
And namely, the slot density was one of the things customers wanted. They wanted more slot density. On a 4U system with 4 usable slots, customers were pressed. They were I/O challenged.
Yeah.
So more slots. That's what they liked about the A700.
You had to rob from Peter to pay Paul in a way. You had to always choose kind of the
You were
lesser of two
making
evils.
unfortunate choices.
Right,
yeah.
right,
So
right.
more slots. The other thing I liked about the A700 was the fact that you could service the I/O adapters separately from the node. So outstanding serviceability story relative to a platform with internal adapters. So they liked that aspect. Check. But they didn't like the density. An 8U chassis, 1 or 2 shelves, you get to 10U, 12U pretty quickly. They wanted a smaller footprint.
Okay.
So we checked that box too. So we went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, how do we, and essentially the new nodes are a 2U footprint, right? How do you get 11 slots in a 2U space?
Wow. Okay.
Magic.
Yeah, well, that came
Sorcery.
Sorcery. Folding a fourth dimensional space.
I'm from New Orleans, so yeah, I get all that. So I call some of my contacts back there. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's amazing, and it necessitated some design changes. Like we needed to move the power supplies to the middle to get 11 slots on the system.
I want to come back to power supplies because that's definitely a big talking point on this system. Some of the big things that stood out for me when I really dug into the details, and guys, just so you know, I'm going to be working with Chris to do some super geeky data center dude videos on these very soon, pulling things apart and showing internals and all of that stuff. But so we jumped up to Sapphire Lakes on the processors, right?
Close, half right.
Sapphire Rapids, is that?
That's it.
That's
yes,
it.
Sapphire
Sorry,
Rapids.
yes.
I know it was a trick question.
Yeah,
That's okay. Thank.
One of them Sapphire
You were paying
ones.
attention.
Yeah. The other big one was Gen 5 PCIe, PCI Express. I think that one is going to enable us to do some really, really cool things in the next few years with this new generation. Everything from, well, I don't want to speculate on it. I'll just let you tell me, like, what does PCIe Gen 5 bring to the table for a storage system like this?
Well, we're going to have to hit a few highlights here, Nick.
Okay.
So bear with me.
Yeah.
But one is, every time you step up a generation in PCIe, you double the bandwidth.
Yeah.
So our previous generation platforms, all but the A900, are PCIe Gen 3.
So we jumped 2 generations.
Shown 2 generations. So it's like a 4x increase in the amount of burst bandwidth available to the motherboard.
Right.
So it just helps out keeping latency very low.
Nice.
The other thing with PCIe Gen 5 and that Sapphire Rapids CPU is the fact it has the connectivity, so each of those slots connect directly to the CPU. So the PCIe switches, PLX, is something that's been a mainstay for engineering systems. Thing of the past. All the slots, no shared bandwidth, direct connection to the CPU. Thank you, Gen 5.
Yeah.
Keep going. Gen 5 is the entry point for 400 gig Ethernet. So, yeah.
That is just delicious.
Technically, the A900 would have supported 64 gig fiber channel. But we decided just to hold off until we got to this generation platform. So 64 gig fiber channel will be available on the platform. The 400 gig is available, and the one thing we need to, it's not at launch. We have to wait for availability to come in.
Yeah.
So it'll come post-launch, but it will fit in the same hardware, same version of ONTAP. So in
a little bit dependent on the switching infrastructure too, availability of that. So
that too.
Yeah.
One more thing while we're on it. So PCIe Gen 5 pairs really well with DDR5 memory.
Oh, yes.
So it just kind of meshes together really well for a performance monster.
So I think I outlined this in one of the videos I put up today. So it was so for Ethernet, it's 10, 25, 40, 100, obviously 1. So 1, 10, 25, 40, 100, and up to 400 gig.
You're close again.
What did I miss?
So we'll have 200 gig as well.
200 in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So just aggregated bonded pairs.
Yeah. These more modern chips have a pretty good ability to auto range to lower speed. So yeah, the 400 gets you to 200 gig and 100 gig.
So talking real quick before we get out of here, one last little detail, Metro Cluster. I know we've got a lot of people in the Europe audience, the EMEA audience. There's a lot of Metro Cluster over there. What does Metro Cluster look like with the A70 and the A90?
So Metro Cluster is going to be using Metro Cluster over IP, MCC IP. And depending on the model, the A70 requires one of the iWarp adapters, 100 gig adapter. The A90 requires 2. Those will go in slots 2 and 3 on the system. If you don't have Metro Cluster, slots 2 and 3 are fair game.
Nice.
Put whatever you need in them. And there is an offering coming to go from Metro Cluster fiber channel to Metro Cluster IP non-disruptively. And from your existing platforms, any model that you want to settle on for the next gen platforms, non-disruptive.
Wow.
Non-disruptive upgrades, as you'd expect from NetApp.
Well, I don't want to ruin everything all at once because I do want to save some for a later episode with Mr. Lueth. But Chris, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for being a part of this launch with us. And I know everybody always loves when you show up, or Scott. We love you, Scott.
We love you, Scott.
I want to make sure that we get you guys back on to a future episode so we can go into even more of the details. The last thing I want to leave you with, we haven't talked much about the A1K. What was the inspiration for the A1K as opposed to our more traditional HA pair footprint of the A70 and A90?
So it had the same design principles, more slots, same serviceability improvement, servicing the adapter separate from removing the node, but it took it one step further on serviceability. And the way we did that, we split the nodes into their own separate chassis. Mm-hmm. So it's not HA in a chassis, 2 controllers in the same chassis.
The HA goes over the cluster switch.
Exactly.
The interconnects. Yeah.
And the HA connection as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing we did. We combined the cluster interconnect and HA traffic on the same physical port. But with this new approach, let's go back to the A70, A90. If you have to service anything inside the node, you disconnect all the I/O, pull a node, service it, put it back in,
right,
connect everything back correctly. With the A1K, we now service the node out the front of the chassis.
Meaning the controller comes out of the front.
Out of the front. And
that's a big one.
Nobody will ever complain about going in the cold aisle to work on hardware. Yeah. So the node comes out the front, I/O stays connected in the back. And that's just the nice thing to hear customers is sometimes they'll debate amongst themselves. I want the modular. I want the integrated. I just tell them, you're both right.
Yeah.
It just depends what's more important to you. The integrated will give you better density, rack density, lower power consumption. Modular gives you the ability to separate your controllers across cabinets, across power rails, and the best serviceability story. And it's going to have the highest performance too. So it just depends.
Yeah.
Work with your customer, help them make the right choice.
Well, I know we mentioned it at the beginning when we were first talking about it, but since you said power supplies, it reminded me. I do want to hit on that real quick. 2,000 watt, 95% titanium rated power supplies. That's impressive. What does that mean for anyone that has, sustainability goals in mind when they're looking at their next storage system for something like this?
Well, one, it means you can sell the systems to people in Europe. Europe has a strict requirement for titanium-rated power supplies, no exception. Now, NetApp knows sustainability is becoming more important around the planet.
Yeah.
So we're cutting in the titanium PSUs across the planet. Customers actually can upgrade their platinum-rated PSUs, 90% efficient, to titanium. No problem, non-disruptive. But these new platforms go out the door 100% titanium. Anywhere in the planet, you get that 95% efficiency.
Fantastic.
Nick, when we're talking about sustainability, there's probably two more things. Do you mind if I?
No, I was going to ask if you had anything.
Something?
Yeah.
So, packaging. You want to talk about the packaging a little bit on the systems?
Oh, Jeff.
I know. I had to.
I'm feeling the love, dude.
I know. I know. It was a softball question. I knew. I was waiting for Nick to give it to you, but since he wasn't, I'll give you that.
Yeah. So anyway, I know it's hard to get people excited about cardboard. I
Not me.
But it is stunning. So what we did, we went as part of the new bezel design. We also said let's work on our packaging. And there's cardboard. How do you improve cardboard? Well, you can increase the amount of cardboard that is made from recycled material. So we did that. The hard foam protection we put around the controllers, because bad things happen in shipping.
Oh, of course.
You've probably all seen photos. But that hard foam is really carbon intensive, and it also goes to landfill. So it's just not a good sustainability story. So we went with some plastic thermoform cushions. You've probably seen these on products you get from Amazon, for instance. And these are made from recycled material. And the nice thing about this approach is stronger.
Yeah.
It's a stronger package, so we can make it
That's a good point.
smaller. So there's less CO2 transporting it. And since it's stronger, you can stack 3 instead of 2, even less CO2 from transporting it. And the best part of all is 100% curbside recyclable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have to add one little asterisk at the bottom. The static protection bags aren't
not
made from recycled material.
Darn it.
It's like the legal speak at the end of a car commercial.
Well, you can't win them all. No, but that's understandable, though, because those are specialized bags. I mean, we're not alone in having to have those bags for electrical reasons. I mean, as long as there's still a magnetosphere, we're still going to have electromagnetism, and we're still going to shock stuff.
Yeah, there's one more innovation.
It's probably a good choice having a magnetosphere, though.
It is. I mean, given recent events,
trade-off, exactly.
we probably wouldn't have done too well. You know, I mean, at least we've gotten rid of carpet and socks in data centers, so we don't have to worry about that too much anymore.
Yeah.
So, Chris, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. Really excited about these new systems. Thank you for bringing the bezel as well. I hope you guys all enjoyed that, taking a first peek at that. Would you do me one last favor, though? Would you go? Jeff and I are going to rap about some stuff. Would you tell the next guest to come in on when you're heading out?
After I high five him, for sure.
After you can I get a high five?
I get it. Yeah.
Awesome job on the systems, man. Really, really impressive stuff.
Teamwork
for
There we
sure.
go.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So, Jeff, from a hardware perspective, I feel like both of us are super hardware nerds.
Yeah, fair.
There was something about this that really geeked me out, especially on the 70s and 90s, because I looked at the sheer amount of I/O card.
Yeah.
I/O, just a general I/O that's in the back.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all that Ethernet, 12 gig SAS, if you need to migrate some legacy shelves, is an option. 64 gig fiber channel.
Yep.
Metro cluster interconnects, Metro cluster over IP specifically, like all of this stuff.
Yep.
And to top all of that off, the PCIe Gen 5, the 2000 watt, 95% titanium. Like, I've never heard of a 95% titanium power supply.
Yep.
I didn't know that was a thing
I know.
until today.
Until now.
So, anything else you want to say about those before we move on to some other stuff?
I was just going to say, did you talk to Chris a little bit about the QAT chips?
We did, but I was specifically saving that one for this super geeky deep dive.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because that's where the real nerds are going to show up.
We'll tease that. We'll just say
Yeah.
lot of storage efficiency improvements there,
If you're familiar with Intel's QAT technology, hint, hint, wink, wink.
Gotcha.
I'll leave it at that.
Sounds like a plan.
Now, joining us now in the studio, also one of our special guests and a returning guest to the show, He's our senior product manager for everything we do for around security here at NetApp. Mr. Matt Trudewind. Matt, how you doing, man?
Hey, Nick, good to see you, man. Good to see you,
Thanks for joining the show again.
Yeah, glad to be here. First time live.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. It's exciting to be in person after doing this remote for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I definitely have some things I wanted to start off with. Like, can you give us an overview? Part of the announcement was Cyber Vault. We have a lot of people that are tried and true NetApp practitioners. They're familiar with all of our Flex and Snap words. Tell us about Cyber Vault as if we've never heard of any of those before, and what does it really bring to the table?
Right. Well, it turns out that ransomware is still a problem, as are cyber threats. So that's why we released today a Cyber Vault reference architecture. And what it's really about is you can take an existing ONTAP system. In fact, some of our customers have actually already done this. It wasn't a lot, and we decided that we should put something out there to help them. You can take an existing ONTAP system and harden it, make it resilient to ransomware, make the backups on it immutable and indelible. And so it brings essentially a great way to protect your data from these malicious actors, and also not just external threats, but also internal. And so it's a prescription specifically for a hardened appliance to protect from ransomware attacks.
Fantastic. So I think that's something that I think we've had something along those lines in previously, but we've never packaged it so well. I know, I was doing Snap Vault secondaries in 2008. Like that's kind of we've had this technology for a while.
Yeah.
It's exactly. It's kind of, peas and carrots as far as, NetApp stuff goes. But I look at the way we deliver it now, and with how prolific things like ransomware and other encryption take over security threats have become so important for people to do. How does things like Cyber Vault, and just a security question in general, how does Cyber Vault play into the overall security posture for NetApp around things like ARP or however else we want to help people protect against threats?
Yeah. So let's be a little bit clear about this, right? So Cyber Vault is actually a lot more this time around than just your basic snapshot with SnapLock. What we've done is we said things like on this specific appliance, which you can use it on any array, by the way, AFF, ASA, but really you want to highlight basically the FAS and C-series because you're sending all of your backups there. It's a vault, right? And so you're going to do things like turn off the data protocols. We have a firewall and ONTAP. We had it for a long time, and it's called service policies now. But you can restrict that management traffic to maybe even just a single host in the environment, right?
Yeah.
It's all about air gapping, which is very important. But it's a modern take on air gapping. The problem with traditional air gapping is when you come to recover. Like people think of putting stuff to tape, and then you send a tape off. That's air gap. Nobody can touch it. But what's your recovery going to be like on that? So the way we're doing it with air gap is it's, like I said, with firewalls, turning protocols off. You can only send the snap mirror in. And so when it comes time to restore, because we're using the snap lock, along with all those hardening items, you're going to be quick restores, which really downtime is one of the biggest killers of an attack.
Yeah. So
that's what really makes this different. It's putting all those pieces together. So you can almost think about it as a Snap Vault with SnapLock solution, but on hyper steroids, secure, all the goodness. All of your ARP and stuff like that, you're still going to be doing on your primary data.
Yeah.
But this is sending your data into a secure vault that's isolated and air gapped, but there for quick recovery. So it's out there, published today, and everyone should take a look at it. It's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Drew, if by chance we have that, can we throw that in the chat? That'd be fantastic. I know we were looking at getting some other links to put in the description of this video. And once we get done with the show, I'm going to put all of the links to all of this stuff for all of you guys out in the video, in the description, excuse me. From a security standpoint, so we talked about Cyber Vault, we talked about ARP. Everybody knows and loves SnapMirror, SnapLock, SnapVault, those guys. What else do we look at when we think about cybersecurity or threats, specifically when it comes to managing NetApp storage?
Well, yeah, actually with ARP, so Autonomous Ransomware Protection, let's touch on that a little bit more because we are including something brand new. We talked about it in March, but it's good to remind people about it now. Is it actually has a way to use AI to detect threats with 99% accuracy.
Damn.
Yeah, we're finally adding AI in that capability. It was machine learning before. It's been around, since 9.10.1, but we're going to the next level. It's going to be a public preview in this release, but it's going to be very powerful. You're going to have much better at detecting attacks. Of course, you're going to get the automatic snapshots as well. But yeah, we're seeing 99% accuracy now with this new ARP AI model. So AI can be used for good or bad. On the NetApp side, we're using it for good, right? Not just deep fakes and stuff like that. So yeah, we're using our powers for good over here for the AI.
Well, I mean, Chris wants to use it for deep fake Scott Bell.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the one that we're gonna okay.
We'll have to work on that.
I think I saw him earlier somewhere. Deep fake.
Yeah.
Jeff, anything else on the security front that you want to add in or ask Matt?
No, I mean, I think it's just continued, right? We keep talking about being the most secure storage on the planet, right? So I've just been impressed by everything you guys do. And I mean, what's the thought process as you're designing security into it? Can you talk a little bit about how that works with ONTAP just in general?
Yeah, in general, what we try to target is secure by default as much as possible, right? But you can't always do that, but there are some good examples of it. Cluster peering encryption with like your snap mirrors. We've been encrypted snap mirrors by default since 9.6, right? And a couple of the new things we also are announcing today. I won't go too much into the details because we're going to have probably a follow-up show at some point, Nick. But we added something called dynamic authorization. And this is the initial stage of it. It's a framework, but it's going to actually take in a user account, an admin on the system. What time of day are they coming in? What's their authorization history? What's their authentication history? What's their IP address? What are they trying to do? And based on those factors, if it looks a little sus, as my kids say, then we'll go ahead and we'll say, hey, maybe you actually need to reprompt for MFA authentication, right? Or if it looks really suspicious, we might deny it entirely. So to go back to your original question, Jeff, what we're always thinking about with features like these is how can we provide a last line of defense at the storage and not just from bad guys, but also insiders. Multi-admin verify, right? We had that for insider threat. We added that a while ago, but we're adding over 100 new supported commands in this release. So I would say MAV is finally at the state where it's pretty much meeting all the use cases. And so that's very exciting. So those are the things we're always looking at. Enabling the admins, securing the data, that last line of defense, and of course, zero trust. Got to have zero trust. I don't trust you guys, but you seem trustworthy, but I can't do it.
At least 50% of us are.
At least 50% trustworthy. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
We strive for it.
Well, Matt, I look forward to doing the deep dive into some of the Cyber Vault architectures. I do want to take some time myself to digest it and look through it. I think it's really exciting that we're kind of giving these to people on a silver platter. Like, here's a turnkey solution for you with how-to instructions, stereo instructions of how to put this thing together with some of these new systems specifically. So I'm excited about it to that respect, and I can't wait to have you back on and do a deep dive on that. There's more I want to drill into around, how do we deal with AV and IPS and things like that in the modern era, especially with things like AI and ransomware in mind. And we'll get into all of those gooey, fun details. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right, Jeff.
Okay.
We're trucking right along. Guys, post some questions in the chat if you got them. We'll be happy to answer those while we've got the guests here. We got one more for you before we get out of here. And I saved the best for last. No offense, Matt. Thanks for stopping by.
Wow.
He heard me.
He wasn't even out of the room.
He wasn't out of the room yet. I couldn't hold it in.
I mean, it's recorded anyway, so you would have heard it.
My love for our next guest goes deep.
I understand. It's a little weird.
In all kinds. It's a little weird. It's a little awkward.
It's a little awkward.
He has been on the show many, many times, and you can't talk about new engineered systems at NetApp without talking about this particular piece of software that rides on those systems. And of course, I'm talking about ONTAP. He's been on the show several times with us before in the past. He is one of the most watched episodes, several of them, over the last couple of years as we've been doing on air. So we couldn't have a live stream today about a new engineered systems launch without bringing on the one, the only, our senior product manager for ONTAP, Mr. Keith Aasen. Keith, thanks for joining, man. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I wish I could be there in person. It's been remote as well, but we'll make it happen soon. And hey, Jeff.
Hello.
So we will definitely have you on. We were going to try and squeeze you in tomorrow, but that just didn't work out. It was too much, everything everywhere all at once. So we'll have it on next week. So teaser next week. Make sure you're subscribed here. Mr. Keith Aasen will be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern when we're going to do a full deep dive on everything ONTAP as far as 9.15. So Keith, I spoiled it for you. Why are you here today?
As you said, it's not just about hardware. Chris and team did an amazing job on hardware, but it's not a complete solution. We're selling our engineered systems, and means putting a software wrapper over top of it. And although Chris highlighted how they did a lot of research, a lot of engineering as far as picking the right components, the real magic starts to happen is when you start layering ONTAP on top of it. And ONTAP is really heavily tailored for that hardware. It's not a simple thing. It's not a plug and play. We get down to the device driver and firmware level and making sure that we're customizing ONTAP to maximize what that hardware is actually giving us. So the two, the two are inseparable.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. It's peanut butter and jelly. You got to have them together, for sure. Really, the systems don't work without the magic of ONTAP underneath it. Like ONTAP for me is something I fell in love with organically a long time ago. It's something I've enjoyed watching the progression of over time. So when we look at the launch today, what are the big things that people need to know about? Don't give everything away today, Keith. We don't have an hour and a half to go deep into 9:15, but what is it and why should people care as far as like what the big things are for as far as payload goes with this launch?
Well, I'll save a bunch of big ones, but one big one is one of the biggest things you won't even see it. That's the tricky part. What I mean by that is the amount of effort that goes into ONTAP engineering to make sure that hardware is highly available, highly resilient, and highly performant. It is always shocking to me when you see, we pick and choose hardware, and then that first draft or first engineering cut of ONTAP, you see the performance numbers and go, wow, that's pretty good. And then every churn of ONTAP, every release that happens after that, you see those performance numbers climb and climb and climb and climb. And so the first kind of huge amount of engineering effort that you don't necessarily see on the surface, it's not a big shiny new feature, is that incredible performance and high availability you get with these new systems. So even though they're coming right out of the, a newly engineered platform, you can be rest assured that the ONTAP team has done hundreds and hundreds of hours of testing on these systems to give that performance and availability. So it's not one of those things that kind of smacks you in the face, but something you expect out of an ONTAP engineered system.
Is there anything? I mean, Chris mentioned some of the new things that we were getting with like PCIe Gen 5 and things like. Are there things in ONTAP that are there magic widgets that get turned on because we've got that capability now?
Not necessarily in the PCI. That opens up to all kinds of new I/O options, which are really exciting. But the one, and I know Jeff is sort of chomping at it. We're trying to hold back about going too deep on it. But definitely the new Intel chipset does give us access to this QAT, quick access technology.
Yeah.
And what we've done there is a tremendous amount of work to focus on storage efficiency, not just improving storage efficiency, but making it easier to use. Right. As we've gone through so many iterations of storage efficiency, we kind of fell in the trap of giving people options around, do you want this or do you want that? And, what should be the right setting? All of that needs to go away, right? Let ONTAP just make the best decision based on the data. And that's what we have with using the quick access technology. Basically, we can hardware offload compression, which allows us to just optimize the platform. There's no nerd knobs. And as much as you and I love nerd knobs, kind of the best thing is when it just happens. Just let ONTAP make the best decision for the data and give me the best storage efficiency possible.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about the efficiencies that we've had for years now is, I mean, you just enable dedupe, and it just goes and does its thing.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it anymore. Jeff, I wanted to give you a moment since it sounds like you really want to talk about QAT.
No, it's fine. I think about it
in the context of where to talk about it best, and it probably is around ONTAP.
Yeah,
that's some of the things that can take advantage of it, because otherwise it's a hardware feature as part of the processor. But when it comes to ONTAP, like we were talking about the efficiencies and stuff, what else comes to mind when you think about it with QAT?
No, I mean Keith covered it, so you let him take all my thunder. I just you always do. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, Keith alluded to it with the simplicity, right? But this temperature-sensitive storage efficiency was a great innovation in terms of letting us apply variable compression levels to different amounts of data. But it would be cool if we could just apply the maximum compression to all the data, hot and cold. So that's what QAT allows us to do while still performing all the performance numbers. So you heard, we talk about up to 2 times the performance of these new A-series systems, right? And so you're getting superior performance across the board from generation to generation, plus you're getting improved storage efficiency. So it's a 1 + 1 = 3 sort of equation in terms of all the cool things we're able to do in hardware, combined with the ONTAP software of Mr. ONTAP there himself.
Yes.
But all of those performance numbers too are now with all the storage efficiency settings on. There's no trickery going on as far as we're gonna detune the system or turn off storage efficiencies. All of those performance specs are with the full higher compression ratio. So there's no longer a choice between performance or efficiency. You get them both, and that's brilliant.
Fantastic. That's good stuff. Well, Keith, I know you've got to hit the road. I definitely look forward to having that deeper dive conversation with you next week. So I'll be sending you an invite very soon when it comes to that. And
why does he need to hit the road? He's sitting in his house.
Well, he's got places to be.
I mean,
this is a courtesy, guys. We were blessed with the presence.
That's true.
Of
that's
the one,
true.
the only Mr. Keith Aasen as a kind of a surprise teaser for you guys today.
There you go.
To set up the big show we're going to have, a big episode we're going to have next week. So, Keith,
I'm on PTO and about to head off the grid. So this is my last bit of technology before I start thinking about woods and oceans rather than tech.
Wait,
Fantastic.
We signed off on vacation for you? I thought we discussed that. I didn't think. No, well.
Yeah.
Keith, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Really look forward to the episode next week. Guys, make sure you subscribed here so you can tune in. And Keith, safe travels. Enjoy the PTO. Thanks for dropping by, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Nick. Talk to you then.
Well, there we have it, Jeff.
Yes.
We made it. Let's kind of tie things up here because I wanted to. And guys, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to look at my notes a little bit. I apologize.
Well, we want to talk about the AI announcement as well. At some
we
point,
do, yeah. So that was the last one that we really wanted to go over. This is the Lenovo AI pod you're referring to.
Yep, absolutely.
Tell me about it. Sell me on it. What's the big bullets for it?
Yeah, so I think not to go too far deep into history, right, for time, but if you look at our innovation with NVIDIA, right, it goes back to 2018 when we introduced ONTAP AI. At GTC this past March, we did a huge refresh of it that we called NetApp AI Pod.
Right.
And at the same time, we recognized that AI Pod with NVIDIA's predicated on DGX systems, which are amazing systems, right? And they introduced the next generation of them at GTC, right, with Blackwell. On the other hand, not everyone is able to get their hands on one, both from a price perspective and just from an availability perspective. And for mainstream enterprise AI, where you're not doing significant model training, they're kind of overkill. And so NVIDIA recognized that, and they introduced the OVX platform at GTC as well, which is really about enterprise AI, more targeted at fine-tuning, RAG, and inferencing. So we announced support of the OVX platform. We were pretty much the only primary storage vendor that was supported on OVX from the start. But customers came to us, and we already knew this in some of the early discussions. They said, this is great, but there's 5 or 6 different server vendors out there doing OVX. We'd love if you had an entire stack similar to FlexPod. And we do have a FlexPod AI stack with Cisco, right? But they said we want an OVX specific one. And Cisco is not, for better or worse, one of the OVX partners. And we looked at it and we said, well, there's one name on that list that has been a partner of ours for a long time as well, a really significant joint partner with us, and that's Lenovo. And so that's where we came up with the incredibly long name. Let's see, what is it? Let's see if I can even get it right. NetApp AI Pod with Lenovo for NVIDIA OVX. Yeah. I don't know who in marketing came up with that one.
Aren't you the VP of product marketing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope there's not a chevron that says my name upstairs. But yeah, no. So it's so the whole idea of it is you can have a single system as small as just a couple servers and an AFF system, right? A little half rack system all the way up to multiple racks that's just dedicated towards your enterprise AI, right? So you're using these large LLMs trained, or you're using AI as a service to build your models. But then when you're doing the fine tuning of the models, doing inferencing and doing retrieval augmented generation with things like Nemo Retriever tied directly into your ONTAP systems, all of that can be done through an AI in a box, basically.
Beautiful.
Yep.
It's so simple. It's kind of glorious at its simplicity.
Yep.
And I look at some of the stuff that we've done with the sort of previous generations, if you will, of the ONTAP AI platform, and they're just massive monoliths of things. And I'm looking at some of the newer stuff that's coming. It seems a lot more modular. It seems a lot more scalable, horizontally specifically. And some of the stuff that we heard at GTC around Blackwell and their switching everything that surrounds that platform is going to be massive. And I can't wait to see what people start doing with this stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And the nice thing is there's going to be tons of GPUs in the cloud, tons of GPUs as AI as a service providers, and people building out these massive SuperPod and BasePod style installations. But then we know every enterprise IT shop, in addition, is going to have its own localized AI to be able to do some of its own work.
Right.
And that's really this democratization of AI, right? That's where NVIDIA, like in the OVX platform, they use the L40S chips, right?
Yeah.
So they use a different sort of generation or different sort of topology of chip that's more tuned towards inferencing and fine-tuning and RAG. And that's the sort of thing that's probably going to end up in every data center in the country. It'll be just as ubiquitous as virtualization or anything else, as having your center of excellence, your AI center of excellence there as well.
Yeah, I think that has huge implications for enterprises and business side of it. If anybody happened to watch it yesterday, OpenAI did their latest announcements as well around, which is mostly, if I'm not mistaken, all built on the DGX stuff and NVIDIA stuff. But some of the stuff they announced yesterday around GPT-4o and 4 Turbo, like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Like we're a sliver of a pinky fingernail into this AI thing.
Yep.
And it's only going to explode and get bigger from here.
I agree.
And frankly, I think it'll come back down, in the scale of things. But yeah, that's the big thing for me as far as AI Pod and everything we wanted to talk about today. Is there any other kind of closing thoughts you had around the launch? We made it.
No, we made it. It's been exciting working out. There's a huge team at NetApp that obviously is involved in any of these launches and building the products behind them, bringing them to market. And this really rounds out. I mean, over the last year, right, last 18 months, let's say, we introduced the AFF A-series, right? We introduced capacity flash. Then we did the all-flash SAN array, the ASA, both the A-series and the C-series. So really the fourth part of that quadrant, so to speak, that we really wanted to get a refresh in for was the AFF A-series, and we've done it. And we've, rather than just a refresh, it is a real sort of reinvention and upping the game, really. And we're incredibly excited for customers to get a hold of it.
Because it's been quite a few years since we've refreshed those.
Yeah,
I mean,
it has been.
I mean, the one-offs like the 900 here and there, right? But I mean, yeah, it's been quite a minute. So to be able to jump the number of generations of things that we did to get here where we are today is really impressive.
Yeah, I think the focus for us was always, in some cases where everyone went with all flash was almost gold plating in terms of going down to, we can go sub 250 milliseconds, right? We can go just this incredible speed, and that's amazing. But what we really wanted to focus on, especially over the last couple of years, was improving the economies, right? And so that's where we focused on capacity flash and all this other stuff. And then it came time to, we'd gone to PCI Gen 5, we'd done all this other stuff. It's like, hey, this is time to hit the gas pedal on this.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you for taking this ride with me in a sense and letting us experiment with this. I will also say thank you to Sandeep, John Shirley, the rest of the leadership team that we got to see the announcement earlier. Again, an apology from me specifically on what happened with the video earlier. We'll have full res VODs for everybody to watch on YouTube and netapp.com here after the stream.
It happens, Nick. I know you guys. I know you tried it a million times before, and it worked every time.
Of course,
it's Murphy's Law, right? The one time you actually do it live, it doesn't work. So, but yeah, I would encourage everyone to go check out the replays of it, which will be in high fidelity.
Yeah. I want to give some quick shout outs. Shout out to my partner in crime, Drew Claybrook. He's our community manager here and helps me run Discord and this show. And everybody on your team, your larger team that helped put this launch together. So Chris, Zach. Who am I forgetting? Brian, Joanne, Pagan, James, and John. Just everybody.
And Carl.
And Carl, of course.
Yeah.
Carl. There's so many people that are involved in these things, guys, and I'd be remiss if I didn't do it. I got my first video up over on Data Center Dude. There's going to be more coming over the next few weeks breaking down each of the individual systems. We're going to have more on-air episodes breaking all of these things down as part of the launch today. And again, I'll drop in here at the end and just say to keep track of all of these moving parts that are going on, make sure you come over and join the Discord community. NetAppDiscord.com is where you want to go. We've got Jeff hangs out in there, and you can ask him questions. We've got Chris, Lueth, and Scott Bell. They hang out in there for any other hardware stuff. And a bunch of our support and other people hang out in there as well from the field. So NetAppDiscord.com, definitely want to come hang out in there with all of your peers. Jeff, any final closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think we're good. I think we covered all of it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching today. Again, apologies about the video. We'll get it right next time for sure. And we'll see you next time. Take care.